To learn more about how these new travel sanctions against Cuba will affect travel plans.
Local 10's Hatzel Vela is live in downtown Miami with the latest details for us. Fill us in, Hatzel.
Christy, some new numbers to share with you. According to the Cruise Line Association, the international one, they say nearly 800,000 bookings, I should say, will be affected by the new Trump regulations. We already know several cruise lines have canceled their trips to Cuba. Others are alternating their trips so that they don't stop in Cuba. These are the kinds of notices cruise line companies are sending passengers scheduled to go to Cuba in the coming days. Royal Caribbean says they're adjusting their June 5th and 6th sailings, which will no longer stop in Cuba.
There's a misalignment between what was done to the cruise lines and what is allowed for everybody else.
Pedro Freyre works for Ackerman, a law firm which represents several companies with interests in Cuba. He says cruise lines can still request a specific license to complete the voyages already booked.
Is this political?
Of course it's political.
It was here in South Florida back in April when National Security Advisor John Bolton announced these travel measures were coming. The Trump administration has made it no secret this is a way to get Cuba to back off from Venezuela.
And do you think that'll work?
No.
But Freyre says Cuba can play a key role in solving the Venezuela problem. Other critics say the new regulations favor Cuban Americans who mainly use airlines to travel to Cuba and of course remain a large voting bloc, which could help the president in the upcoming 2020 elections. Freyre says the Cuban government also takes some blame for not taking the economic opportunities during the Obama administration and for not fixing many of their internal problems.
They have severe problems and they need to get with the program.
The Cuban government continues to simply denounce the new measures. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel says the U.S. government keeps at its perverse efforts to crush Cuba. New measures intensify the blockade and violate international law. We strongly condemn this policy. Bottom line here, the attorney reminds us that if you want to travel to Cuba, you can still travel under the 12 authorized categories. If you're traveling to Cuba, if you had booked to Cuba a trip via cruise ship, that's not the case anymore, but you can call and you should call that company to figure out what's going to happen with your cruise ship or with your trip to Cuba. For now, reporting live in downtown Miami, I'm Hatzel Vela, Local 10 News.
And at the height of summer travel plans. All right, thank you, Hatzel.